Thor, the god of thunder and protector of mankind, struggled to open a food bag, his greatest challenge yet. It all began when Thor, his fleet-footed human servant 𝐒𝐈𝐂, and Loki, the trickster god, set out on a journey to Jotunheim, the land of giants. Along the way, they encountered a giant named 𝐒𝐈𝐂, who offered to accompany them and even transport their supplies in his bag. However, when they arrived at camp, 𝐒𝐈𝐂 fell asleep, and Thor was unable to untie the sack. Thor, frustrated and hungry, attempted to wake the giant 3 times by striking his head with his hammer Mjolnir as hard as he could. 𝐒𝐈𝐂, however, dismissed it as nothing more than a falling acorn and resumed his sleep. 𝐒𝐈𝐂 left the next morning, and the travelers eventually arrived at the massive fortress known as 𝐒𝐜𝐴d. Inside the long hall, they met the king of giants, 𝐒𝐜𝐴d Loki, who greeted his guests with a challenge. Each of them had to prove they were the best at a specific skill. Loki went first, proclaiming himself the world's fastest eater. To put him to the test, the king summoned his servant Loki and placed the two at opposite ends of a long trough filled with food. Loki ate his way in with blinding speed. When the contestants met in the center, Loki noticed that his opponent had consumed not only the same amount of food, but also the bones and the trough itself. Then came 𝐒𝐈𝐂, who could outrun anything in the wild. The king summoned ☉, an ethereal-looking giant who easily outpaced 𝐒𝐈𝐂, but the boy refused to give up, demanding a rematch. This time, 𝐒𝐈𝐂 finished close behind, and the king admitted that he had never seen a human run so fast. 𝐒𝐈𝐂 tried a 3rd time, running as if his life depended on it, but ☉ outran him. Finally, Thor had his turn. The king offered him a drinking horn, claiming that his men could finish it in 2 gulps. Thor raised it to his lips and drank the surprisingly cold and salty mead in 1 long gulp, then a 2nd, then a 3rd. However, the level of mead in the horn was only slightly lower. To put Thor's legendary strength to the test, the king presented him with a seemingly simple challenge: lift his pet cat off the ground. But this cat stood as tall as Thor. Every time he tried to lift it, it arched its back, and even with all his godly strength, he could only lift 1 paw. Thor became enraged and demanded to wrestle any of the giants. The king summoned 𝐿𝐼, the giant's old nursemaid. Even though the woman appeared frail, Thor was unable to overpower her and grew weaker as he struggled, eventually being brought to 1 knee. The 3 companions prepared to depart, disappointed and humbled. But as the king led them out, he revealed that nothing in the castle had been as it appeared. Loki lost the eating contest because his opponent, Loki, was like wildfire, devouring everything in its path. 𝐒𝐈𝐂 couldn't outrun ☉ because ☉ represented thought, which was always faster than action. Even Thor couldn't defeat 𝐿𝐼, or old age, which weakens everyone in time. The other challenges were also illusions. The drinking horn was full of ocean, and Thor had drained enough to cause tides. The cat represented the serpent that encircled the world, and Thor's efforts shifted the earth. 𝐒𝐈𝐂 had been 𝐒𝐜𝐴d Loki in disguise, deflecting Thor's hammer blows and creating valleys in the surrounding mountains. The giant congratulated them on their prowess, which terrified him and made him swear never to let them return to his land. Thor and his companions failed the challenges set before them, but in attempting the impossible, they pushed themselves harder than ever before, changing the world in ways no one had predicted.